Hey everyone. So this afternoon I wanted to demonstrate how I prepare the beds for direct seeding crops such as carrots. We're in the polytunnel, and what I normally do is I usually do an early sowing of carrots in the polytunnel, usually in the end of February or the beginning of March. So I actually have direct seeded in the tunnel next door. But I wanted just to demonstrate, because it was a bed like this that I sowed the carrots in. So normally the way I do it is, now we know that carrots need a free draining soil, and they also don't necessarily need a huge amount of fertility. So in the rotation then I would have had a heavy feeding crop last year, and in this bed it was cucumbers and courgettes, which would received a lot of fertility. So this year then I rotate with lighter feeding crops such as carrots, or maybe I would do salad or something like that. In addition, with crops like cucumbers and courgettes, they have quite a big root structure, so they'll break up the soil, and that's really important for carrots. You need the soil to be loose underneath so that the roots can penetrate the soil and form properly. So if you have a heavy soil, now you can grow carrots in clay soils and all different soil types, but you just have to be aware that you might have to amend it. This soil, you can see, is quite broken up from the previous crops, so I don't need to use a fork and go through it, but if you had a clay soil you would need to break up the soil underneath. So what I normally do then, when a crop comes out, I would use this 3-pronged cultivator and just make sure that the soil is loose enough on top. So that would be the first stage of what I do. So the next thing I would do then is, because I'm not adding in any compost or anything, I would usually top dress the bed with some seaweed dust. So I just put a light sprinkling over the top of the bed. You know, probably like 2 or 3 handfuls per metre squared is all I put on it. So that's what I do. That's the next step, and then I get the rake. And what I want to do now is, you want to create a fine seed bed on the top, because remember, carrot seeds are very small, and again you want to just make sure they're covered with a tiny bit of soil. You don't want big lumps of clay or like rocks or stones or anything like that on top. So what I do then is I rake the bed like this, and then what I'll do is I'll just collect up all of the stones or any big bits of compost that maybe are left over from last year. So that's kind of what I'll do on the bed. Now the next thing you need to remember is that just for weed control, you might think of doing a stale seed bed. So normally what I would do is I would prepare the bed in advance, and I would water the whole area. I would allow the first flush of weeds to come up, and then I would gently cultivate the top before I'd sow the carrots. Now some growers would use a flame weeder and they just weed them off because there's there's no disturbance. So that kind of would nearly work better than even just cultivating the very top bit of the soil. But I usually just go through it before I direct seed. So stale seed bed, leave it a week or two, let the first flush of weeds come up, clean them off, and then you're ready to direct seed. So the next step then is to make your lines in the bed. And I just wanted to show off one of my new tools. So I bought a new tool recently, and it's a row marker. And again, these little guys screw off, so you can decide the width between your rows. And I think it comes with about 6 of these. So again, you can make them smaller if you were doing a salad bed, or bigger if you were doing something like chard or something else like that. So again, what I normally do is I have the rows about 10 inches, 8 to 10 inches apart for the early carrots, and then all you do then is you make your row like that, and then I'll come back and I'll sow the bed. So in the next video then I will demonstrate just seeding the carrots.